Welcome to the Tim Vaxelbaum Show. My name is Tim Vaxelbaum, and I'm a media personality. I'm coming to you live from my acoustically treated studio programming directional equipped room system. It's a systematic process that I am presenting to you via my imagination and vocal cords in coordination with the Republican Party of Minnesota, as well as the AAACP, which is the anacrostic, or in association with the other Republican Party of West Minnesota. And also, we are in affiliation with the Anti-Defamation League.org. ADL.org is the Anti-Defamation League. Bad app. Who's on deck? I'm in the AD League. I'm in the Anti-Defamation League. What? Do you play baseball? Yeah, I play baseball. What league are you in? Anti-defamation. I'm a catcher. I catch the anti-Semitism coming from the white supremacists. I'm a really good catcher. Batter. Strike one, strike two, strike three, you're out. You're going to hell. These freaking white supremacists are the other team. They play for the Klan. Do I have to get more specific? There's many other teams in the league of the Anti-Defamation League. I don't know if that's actually what it stands for. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I don't think it... Does it actually stand for that? Anti-Defamation League? It's a league? It's a league. Yeah, they're in a league of their own. They're in a league of their own. They're out of my league. How can you call yourself a league if there's no one else playing the game that you're in? Who's the players in the league? The players are the groups that they talk shit about. The league are the people in charge of who they talk shit about on their Anti-Defamation League. They're the ones... It's very complicated. It's very it's ironic. They're anti-defamationers, which means they're against defamation. But they defame people all the time who talk shit about the Jews and stuff. I don't get what they're trying to accomplish. We're going to fight racism with hate. They're hating a whole group of people. We're just hating these few individuals. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's healthy. I think it's better to just hate a shit ton of people that are faceless instead of concentrating it down, just hating, targeting one person with your hate. It's a little more dangerous to that person, not to the group. Okay, I didn't mean to start by something that deep. That's a deep topic, and by deep it means layered. It means nuance. It means you could talk about, you could take a college class about it or a degree. It means deep as in whoa, man, that is deep. And then people like to say, it's not that deep, man. That's a new phrase from the 2010s. My least favorite decade. They go, it's not that deep, man. Yeah, it is. It's perfect. It's insanely deep. Too deep for you to swim in my league. You're in the baby league when it comes to deepness. When it comes to depth of field. You're barely even in a 40 millimeter lens. You cocksucker. Alright. So anyway, welcome to the show. This is episode 89 of the Tim Fuschelblum Show. Coming to you quietly from my studio apartment complex. I'm just adding words, like word salad. One of my talents is that I'm able to talk about nothing for 12 hours. in a row, constantly, without stopping, in a whole stream of thought without stop. I could do that for 12 hours. I could probably do it for longer, but it's just, I don't, it's a waste of drugs. Then I gotta take meth, and that's like $20 worth of meth. So, we're not doing that this episode. We're gonna do about an hour of podcasting this episode. But the point, I can yap about nothing for 12 hours. So an hour is like child's play. That's like Little League. Doing this for an hour is Little League. Still takes me a lot to do it, though. If you haven't, I have a lot of people that follow this, and they notice, if you're one of those many people that write in, you'll say, he doesn't do it that often. Like, he used to do it every week, and then it stopped going, and it's less and less. Well, that's how things work. I have to hype myself up to do this, man. I'm a quality over quantity type of guy with this podcast. Like, sure, one time I put out a 12-hour episode, but that's because it was an episode it was special. It was episode 69, so I did 690 minutes. It flew by. It was gold. It was dead gold. It was quantity over quality. Now I'm quality over quantity. So anyway, we got a lot to get into this week. A lot of people died. Nobody that I know or care about except for Matthew Perry. Matthew Perry was a selected actor to star in one of the hit sitcoms of the 90s. He was selected to star in one of them. But the one that he actually ended up being in, he was considered for several of them, but he was selected for one of them. It was the one that was the most normie of them all. Like, it was called Friends. It was the most normie loved show. It was loved by people that have like a normal life, 9 to 5. It was a good show, though. It was likable. The characters were likable, except for the women. But the men in that show were hilariously likable. And Matthew Perry was the best character almost. He was like the one cracking the slick one-liners and shit. He was slick and funny, but he was a child at the time. He was a child actor. And the point is, the reason I bring him up is because he's famous. And when somebody famous dies, that puts a name to the face. So we care. So we got to talk about his whole life up until he turned about 36. And then who cares? He wasn't in this series anymore. He was just a guy who used to be in a famous sitcom. So the point is, I could keep going. I guess I'm trying to wrap it up to make it nice and quick-winded. But we're going to be long-winded here because there's a lot of depth and nuance to this league of a conversation, and the Anti-Defamation League couldn't even touch this topic of interest. He's a person of interest, not for doing anything anti-Semitic. He was a victim of Semiticism, not anti-Semitism. He was a victim. I crack myself up sometimes. He was a victim of the Jewish power pyramid. There's some shape that perfectly describes the Jewish triangle of success, the ladder of power. He was part of that. He was a victim of it because he was given the spotlight. He was given this great opportunity in his 20s as a child. And then what? They didn't want him anymore. They chewed him up, spat him out, and let him deal with life on his own with millions of dollars and nothing else. No friends. See, that's the irony of his life, is he was in a hit sitcom called Friends, which was about a tight-knit friend group. In real life, he had zero friends except for alcohol, Vicodin, and Oxycontin. Those were his friends in real life. So he died. He was living. So after the show ended, it was horrible because imagine going from being the most famous person of the decade and then going to having zero career. And that was before podcasting existed, and he was not good enough to do stand-up. He wasn't good enough to be a lead actor in movies. And I don't know, maybe he just didn't want to do that. And also, he didn't have to. That's not the point. He wasn't good enough to do anything fulfilling is the point. Movies are not fulfilling. Stand-up is fulfilling for like the select 1 in a million type of personality that actually gets fulfillment from stand-up. I don't know. That's rare. Most actors are not those types of people. They get fulfillment from glamour, from the glamorization of being in the spotlight and status and being known and relevant, and that's it. As soon as you stop being relevant, you stop getting the fulfillment. So you just go to drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol. You can't just say drugs because it's not enough. You know, if you just say he went to drugs, it's like that's it? Just one syllable of a problem? No, drugs and alcohol, which are the same thing. But it's just a phrase. I mean, we get it, Bill Hicks. We know that alcohol is one of the drugs. We know that alcohol is just another drug. And if you're an alcoholic, you're a drug addict, the same as any other drug addict. It's just a specific one that we separate because it sounds good to separate it because it's longer. And we like to sound smart by saying longer phrases. He got hooked on drugs. You sound like an idiot. You sound like you're from the middle South of Connecticut if you just say, he got hooked on drugs. It's like, no, he didn't. He got hooked on drugs and alcohol. Go to school, you uncollocated caveman. So the point is, I know that anytime I say that, it sounds like I'm going to try to end, but we're not even close to being done with this subject. So he died. And it was kind of like a slap in the, like, you know, whenever you read that a celebrity died late at night and you're like scrolling on Reddit and you just see, oh, Matthew Perry's dead. And then it just hits you. It's like, wasn't he already kind of dead? That's the first thing that I thought. It's like, well, he kind of already was dead. He was like a walking shell of his former, he was like an empty shell of a person. He had no life in him. So for me, it was like, okay, he's finally like actually dead. That's okay. That's sad, I guess. And that did hit me pretty hard. Even, you know, I don't sound like it did. I'm sounding pretty morose and like flippant and like very insensitive is how I'm talking about it. But that's only for because I'm a man. So I'm not a pussy bitch who talks, it made me cry. It didn't make me cry, but it made me sad for a couple seconds. It's the type of celebrity death that hits you very good in a way that gives you a jolt of dopamine. So that's what it did for me, is like, oh, cool. That gives you a jolt of energy if somebody that you don't know dies. If you don't care, if you don't have any emotional attachment to them, if you don't know them, if they aren't putting out shows anymore, you're not going to be like that sad for that long. You know, I'm sorry. It's sad, but he's a celebrity. So you're allowed to not be sad. You're allowed to be insensitive about it. Ari Shaffir, famously insensitive about famous people dying. And this was not even that bad of a celebrity death because he was already dead. It's like when Lindsay Lohan died, right? She died, right? Remember when that news came out? Or Amanda Bynes? It's like, finally. Or like Britney Spears. Remember when she died in 2007? It was like, that was shocking, though. That was shocking. Thank God she died, though, because if she was still alive, what would she be doing? She'd be an empty vessel of her former self. It's sad to see celebrities not die, is kind of where I'm going to draw the bottom line here. Matthew Perry was an old man. He lived to like 54. People say he was so young. That's not that young. Picasso lived until he was 87. So there you go. But that's not who I wanted to say. Who I meant to say was that other dude that was very good at music. The guy that was Mozart. Mozart died when he was 35. So if we're not crying over Mozart dying at 35, I don't think we could be that sad that somebody dies at 54 who wasn't even doing anything. When Steve Jobs died at 56, that was like a crash in the economy. That was like a crash in culture. India felt ripples of his death. Unknown countries that we've never even heard of on a globe, that they don't even bother to write down on a globe, felt ripples. They heard of Steve's death, and it blew their hair back, and then it blew their spinal column back in a 90-degree angle and shattered them into bits and pieces. This is like, imagine, like COVID was nothing compared to the deaths that were caused by Steve Jobs' finality. His fate, like his death sent ripples around the world that we're still dealing with. He was actually still putting out good shit when he died. When Steve Jobs died, this iPad was just coming out. This iPad was just coming out. He put out a laptop. So anyway, if Steve Jobs was still alive, we would actually be a better person. Our lives would be better. We wouldn't be better people. Our lives would be better because there'd be these things called iPads. iPods, whatever. That we'd be having these inventions that are amazing. Notice how nothing in this room is an Apple product. All these products that I'm using are designed not in Cupertino. They're designed in Shanghai, Florida, for all I know. Malaysia, Kansas City, Missouri. Atlantis, the place that no one's been to, for all I goddamn give a crap, because Steve Jobs is dead and he's the visionary genius who was only 56. So yeah, he was young when he died. He had cancer, and he tried to save himself by going jumping across country to get on the top of the waiting list to get liver transplant, and he got a liver transplant. And then what happened? It spread elsewhere, so it's not his fault. And that brings me to another topic. Is it okay that he manipulated the medical system to get a liver transplant ahead of all these other people? If you're asking me, my humble opinion is that it's not wrong at all. How many people on those lists invented the iPod Nano? 4? 3? Maybe 5 or 10, maybe a dozen people invented that besides him on that list? Yeah, that's not very many. They weren't nobody. Maybe some of them are cool, but they didn't have the credentials or the resume that Steve. It's not even about fame. It's about what he was doing to the world. He was saving the world by inventing these great genius products that we still use every single day of our lives. Yeah. So Matthew Perry, as much as it's bad to say this, but it was his time. I'm not even trying to be sappy. I'm not trying to be like overly dramatic when I say this, is that if this was his eulogy at his funeral, I would literally say he had a good run. He died at a pretty good age, He lived a pretty long life and died the way that most people hope to die in a bathtub. A lot of celebrities take baths. Have you noticed that a lot of irrelevant celebrities tend to die in their bathtub? That's how you know you're an irrelevant celebrity, if you're dead in a bathtub. If you ever wake up dead okay, this sounds very insensitive. If you ever are about to die in a bathtub, or forget it. If you're just a celebrity who used to, just a wake-up call for celebrity that take baths. If you're a celebrity that happens to take a lot of baths and jacuzzis, whatever you call it, whatever type of bathtub it is, if it's a jacuzzi, whatever, that's still a bath. If you take baths alone, enough that you might actually die in one, maybe you should consider the fact that you're irrelevant, that's all. Nah, he was a good guy. He was a good guy. He wasn't like that Adam. He wasn't like that other guy who died in a bathtub. Adam Carter or whatever, something Aaron Carter died, I believe, as well, in a bathtub. He died not of heroin or any drug. He died of being irrelevant. He died of being a loser. You know who didn't die in a bathtub? Steve Jobs. So I'm just saying, that's just a wake-up call to people. If you're irrelevant, stay away from bathtubs. If you don't think you're irrelevant, or ask yourself this: do you own a bathtub? Do you see yourself enjoying that bathtub? Do you enjoy the feeling of warm water and bubbles meandering and bubbling? I'm not good at vocabulary, but do you like the feeling? I'm not good at imagery, painting an image. But do you like the feeling of bubbles bouncing around your slick, naked body? That means you're an irrelevant celebrity. I don't care who the hell else you think you are. If you own a bathtub, what you're doing by sitting in that bathtub every night, you're feeling the warmth of the love that you used to have. It's an escape. It's a way to binge. It's a way to cope with the love that is not there anymore. You used to be bathing in love. But now, all you have left over is bathtub water. Stay away from baths. Because most celebrities, they don't know if they're relevant. They don't know if they are relevant or not until it's too late. They actually do know it. It hurts. You feel it in your bones. The feeling of irrelevance hurts more than anything. Show business is a drug that is more powerful than heroin. Because there's people that quit heroin and go back to, I don't know. There's people that quit heroin. There's nobody that quits show business and then says, yeah, I'm a recovered show business celebrity. I used to be nobody survives fame without feeling the pain of losing their fame or their relevance. Like the Smash Mouth guy. The Smash Mouth guy died of fame. That's what killed him, not of alcohol. Alcohol is just like taking a bath. So anyway, I hope I'm connecting dots here. Not really, because there's a lot of alcoholics who don't have anything to do with show business. They are just undiscovered talented people. There's no such thing as an alcoholic who isn't talented in some way. If you're not an alcoholic, you have no chance to make it in show business. So anyway, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I don't know why I'm acting like I'm an authority on the subject. I've never been anything. I've never even had a slight glimpse of show business. I don't know what it's like to not be relevant. I know what it's like to bomb at an open mic. And that's all I need to know. Just the feeling of doing well one day and then the next day you do bad. Then you'll feel what it's like to no longer be seen as good or relevant. I don't know. Who the hell knows, man? But if you're putting out music like Harris Pilton, her life is miserable. You wouldn't want to be Paris Hilton. You want to be around her. But being Paris Hilton is a drag. I can't speak for her. I can only speak for people that I actually know, like Britney Spears. Like, she is on my level. Like, she's not, like, above me in terms of, like, she's not out of my league, is kind of where I'm getting at. She's not out of my league. She would date a short guy in his 30s, in his 5'7", who's like 5'3". She would date somebody like me because she's from the South. She's not, okay, I'm not trying to disparage Britney Spears. It's just that she's in the news a lot these days for putting out some biography about how her life is miserable and how Justin Timberlake is a jerk. Okay, so that's enough talking about celebrities. It's not one of my passions. I don't like celebrities. It's not that interesting to me. They're lonely. They're lonely because people who hang out with them, they have no real friends. Their only real friends are just other celebrities because they're the only ones who are on equal terms. And that's only like 4 people, so that's not very many. And they're busy. So anyway, it's lonely. Like, if you're Justin Bieber, who would hang out? He has no friends. So he's the most lonely person on the planet because anybody who's around him just wants his fame and fortune. They don't like him for him. That's the crux of what sucks about being a celebrity like Matthew Perry. He didn't die of being in a bathtub. He died of the crushing sobriety that fame shows you in how dark the world is, how people only want something from you because you're in a freaking TV show. They don't give a crap about who you really are as a person. Like, the real Matthew Perry had very little in common with Chandler Bing. So the real, whatever his name is, didn't care, but he had real emotions that were not just one-dimensional like a cartoon character. He liked alcohol. I don't know anything else about his personality. He seemed boring. He seemed like the most boring person when he wasn't drunk. And I've never seen him drunk because they didn't film it because that was his real life and it wasn't a reality show. It was a written show. So the point is, most celebrities are miserable drunks. So if you like hanging around with miserable drunks, then you could be friends with them. But if they're sober, they're horrible to be around. Like Steve, we're going to talk about another celebrity, then we're going to move on with the podcast. So we're going to talk about Stephen Hawking, or what is his name? Stephen King. Stephen King is a dry drunk. He used to be a rabid something or other. I don't know if he was an alcoholic, but he was a cocaine-aholic. And who the hell cares what drug it was? He's a miserable, baby-boomy, crusty old man. He has more hate in his heart than all the Trump supporters combined. If you took all the Trump supporters and combined them and mushed them together and squeezed out the essence, the hate fluid would only fill a quarter of the barrel that Stephen King's hate would fill if it was in fluid form. He's the most vile human being because he's not drinking anymore. And he's not he's not putting out good movies anymore. The Shining came out like 40 years ago. So he needs help. He needs a drinking buddy. He needs somebody to be in his corner and like him for who he is, which is a crusty, bitter, dry drunk. And that's hard to find, those people, because they want him for his millions and millions of dollars. You know how much money he makes in a single day? He's like a billionaire. He makes like $200,000 a day, probably, from royalties, from books that he wrote 35 years ago. So how does he make friends? Does he go to the coffee shop? No, because they would see that he's Stephen King, and they go, "Oh, I want his fame and money." So they're nice to him, and they go, "Oh, I liked this book that you wrote 40 years ago when you were on cocaine." He goes, "Yep, I used to be good at that. Now I just go on Twitter and say the same thing as a bunch of other baby boomers that are exactly the same age as me, and I'm indistinguishable. I have no individuality anymore in terms of that. I'm just an NPC. Go back to drinking alcohol. Maybe you'll flourish. You put on one more good book." He is indistinguishable from anyone else who just happens to make their life revolve around politics and school shootings and the Second Amendment, and who the hell cares? Oh, there was a mass shooting in your neighborhood. Okay, Stephen King. And why you tweeted about it? He's trying to spread propaganda that just because a few people got shot and killed in his area, that means we should care and get rid of the Second Amendment. We should change the Constitution because some old guy is afraid of guns and hates Republicans. Like, you could afford to move out of this country, my friend. I'm pretty sure millions of dollars here are also worth millions of whatever godforsaken currency another country might happen to use, be it francs, Swiss francs, or beads, whatever the hell. I can't think of any. Chinese money, yuan, Japanese yen. I'm pretty sure you could afford to live in any country you want. You could pick the one that has the least amount of guns, but then you'll have nothing to tweet about. So maybe that's the whole point. It's just like you like the feeling of hate. It's the same as that warm bubble bath that killed Matthew Perry. So stay away from bubble baths of hate. Stephen King, I don't want to read about your untimely demise, that he died in a tweet storm, that he had an aneurysm from tweeting something so hateful towards Republicans, and he just couldn't finish it before dying, and it was going to be his best tweet ever. That was the same as about 10,000 other tweets the exact same day. But that's what he's going through. He's going through a mental illness that is chronic, and the only cure is alcohol, probably. And this is a sober podcast, by the way. I'm 2 years sober. I'm not saying I condone alcoholism, unless you're Stephen King, because he's worth $400 million. Nobody wants to suck his dick. Nobody wants to look at his face even, let alone suck his dick. I don't even want to imagine his dick. It's scarier than The Cousin It. It's scarier than any book he's ever written. It's scarier than The Shining. His sex life is where he gets his inspiration for scary novels. Imagine, how does he think of this shit? Well, imagine his sex life. That's how. That's where he gets his demons from. His empty, depressed, embarrassing sex life. He got picked on in school by people that were actually good at sports, not good at writing. He's good at writing. But that's why he hates Republicans, man, because he got picked on for being a nerd, incel. And he's still an incel in his 50s, not in his 50s, so I had to say 50s because I didn't want to change syllables. I didn't want to back out of the sentence. So I just said 50s. He's in his 500s, man. He's old. He's older than anyone that's ever died before. Like, there's nobody that's lived to look older than him yet in life. Even when he was young, he looked demented. But I'm not attacking him for his physical appearance or the way he looks and the fact that nobody wants to fuck him. I'm attacking him out of love. Because I'm not a hateful person. I would rather be hated by all the persons in the world than be hateful myself, than to have any hate in my heart. Because hate is what causes death. That and being irrelevant. Those two things combined are horrible. Resentment and being unfulfilled as a celebrity is a death sentence. He's doing pretty well, though. He's in his 70s or whatever, and he's doing pretty well. His tweeting thumb is not getting any weaker from my image. It's not getting sore. He's not using it for anything else. We know that. He's not using it to write anything in a novel. He's not using it to pleasure any women. He's not using it to crack any cocaine bottles open and sip them like a can of tonic. Because he's sober and sad and he needs help. He needs intervention from sobriety, and that intervention comes in a bottle. So anyway, that's just one person we're talking about. We're like the ADL. We only target individuals. We don't target the whole community at large. In general, we are very against alcoholism, unless you're a dried up celebrity and that's all you have. And that's the only thing that can make you happy. Matthew Perry, why did he stop drinking, man? That was the only thing that was keeping him alive. Not to be quick to get to conclusions. I mean, who knows? Okay, that's enough talking about famous people. I'm going to read more about... So let's get to me. My name is Tim Weisselbaum. I don't know. Weisselbaum. And I am a retail investor who talks about whatever the hell I want because I don't have a family. I don't have a loving, supporting family that would detach themselves from me. I don't have anything to lose except for my house, the clothes on my back, and a bunch of guns and ammunition, and a bunch of shell companies, and a bunch of foreign dignitaries that are in my pocket, and lobbyists, and professional sports teams. But besides that, I got nothing to lose. So that's why I'm able to speak my mind freely and without thinking. Which is the best part. Because if I was thinking about shit before saying it, I might as well just write it in a book. I might as well just tweet it out or something. What's the point of saying something if it's not coming straight from the from the inside of your balls? I don't speak from my heart. I speak from my... It's a muscle. So anyway, yeah, I have freedom to say whatever I want. I'm not a cuck. I don't care. I got nothing to be fired from. I can't be deplatformed because I don't have any following. So that wouldn't really be like anything of a punch in the... I wouldn't even know if I was deplatformed because I don't look at the results. All I know is that it accepts the upload. So anyway, I'm one of those people. I'm off the grid. Like Kanye. He'll be in this podcast. He'll be on this podcast at some point. He's busy. He's in France getting his ball sack sucked. He's in France getting a professional level blowjob in Vienna. No, it was in Rome, or it was in Italy. I forget the name of the place. He was in a beautiful part of Italy where you're not allowed to get blowjobs in public, but he got a blowjob in public because who cares? It was gross. It's kind of gross to do that. So anyway, he's a good guy. And there's a lot of anti-Semitism going on these days. And I don't support that. I promote it, but only as a joke. I don't actually support shooting up a concert with innocent Israeli people. If you're somebody that supports the violence towards anybody, except for as self-defense, or because okay, I guess I can't really defend it unless it's from self-defense. You know, some people will be like, you know, they deserve it. It's like, I don't actually think, like, anybody deserves crimes against their, like, violent crimes being... I'm not, like, actually hateful towards anybody. I don't have hate in my heart. See, I'd rather it be hated than have any hate towards other people. So when people say, I don't know. See, that's the thing. I don't know where this is going because I don't know anything about the Midwest or Giza or the Gaza Strip Club or Israelis, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Afghanistan. I don't know anything about that part of the country. I don't know if it even is a country or a continent. I don't know anything about Palestine, the Tower of Pizza, Joe DiMaggio, Piazzo. Okay, I'm just saying random. I don't know anything about about Greece, Pompeii, Vesuvius, Mount St. Helens, Mona Lisa, Saint Mary, Mother Mary, John Lennon. I don't know anything about these people or places. I don't know anything about the Palestinian, Israelostinian, Giza, Gaza, Guza. I don't know nothing about that. And frankly, I don't care. When I hear that there's like a war in Giza, I go, is that like a pizza place? Is that like a place where the pyramids are? Is that even in the current day of age? Is this like in biblical times? For all I know, we're not even all in the same timeline as other countries that far away. As soon as you go across the Atlantic Ocean, for all I know, they could still be in the 1400s. That's how little I give a crap. So when people say like, oh man, this war, what side are you on, man? I know that you talk a lot of shit about the Jews. It's like, yeah, but I'm talking about American Jews, the ones that I know about, the ones that like I have experience with. I don't know nothing about their home country that people supposedly want to blow up or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. If I had to pick a side, I'll probably pick the Jewish side because I at least know what they look like. I know how they talk. I know how they fuck. I know how to communicate with them because I'm culturally inclined to understand them better as people. So I'm on team whoever has the bigger guns. Also, I'm not on a team because I don't know anything about it. So that's the team I'm on. That's my involvement, my understanding, and my wisdom. That's all I know about this war, which is less than nothing. What I just illustrated is that I know less than there is to even glean. If you could know anything about this war, I don't even know that much about it. I know negative things about it. I know that it's taken place in the 1400s, for example, for all I know. I know that it's happening in a place where the pyramids are built. How about that? That's not true. So those are two things that are not true that I think I know. So I have negative knowledge. I have misinformation in my brain. So I'm not here to spread misinformation. I'm just pointing out that there's people out there that pretend that they do know something about these things, about this war. And they get very passionate about picking a side. It's like, well, if you pick one side, you're racist. If you pick another side, you're anti-Semitic. How about... So if you even pick a side, you look like an idiot. You look like a hypocrite. Unless you're not a hypocrite, you just happen to own up to being one or the other. If you own up to being anti-Semitic and you're consistent, like, no, Muslims are great, then that's fine. But if you're one of these people that just like cherry picks which things you support about Islamic nations, then you're a hypocrite. It's like, oh, I support the brown side because I like supporting minorities because it makes me feel good about myself because I'm not a minority, even though you are. On the grand scheme in the world, you are. But in America, sure. It's a very American thing to support a global majority in pretending that they're even though you think they're a minority. It's very, very backwards logic. It's very narcissistically, and it's narcissism, and it's also not even founded on logic. It's founded on pure narcissism. So anyway, it's like, yeah, these people, they're the minorities, so I support them because it feels good, and other people are telling me to, and they have the flag. I guess we're supporting this flag, so I support them because I want to be seen as a good white person because I'm a majority. It's like, okay. But then when you hear about Muslims doing what Muslims do best, which is blowing people up, throwing gay peoples off of buildings, and having women wear multi-layers of clothing over their face. Anyway, once you hear that, you go, oh, no, that's their culture. That's Islamophobic to call them what they are. They're not all terrorists, but the ones we're kind of talking about, that's terrorism right there, man. They committed an act of terrorism against these poor people at a concert. I don't know who it was. It was just some opposing, somebody that doesn't like Jews. Somebody doesn't like Israel. They just killed a bunch of random people. So I'm against. That's not a good look. That's not a good way to start a war if you want to get support by people that actually have a conscience, that aren't just ravaged, that don't have that don't have fucking rabid rabies, that don't have a rabid form of hatred. If I don't really support hatred that leads to violence towards anybody. So I don't know. That's all. I don't know. No, that's all I know. I don't care. It's not happening where I live. So thank God that guns are legal in Israel so they could defend themselves against these evildoers, as George W. Bush would call them. These evildoers need to be taught a lesson with bigger bullets. The biggest bullets. Overkill is a great word to use when you're trying to show that you're not afraid of somebody who's attacking you. We need a surplus of munitions. But they got enough money. They can farm their own guns. They can make their own weapons. We don't have to give them any. I mean, do we have to really give them guns? I mean, Joe Biden, I think, supports Israel. And he's giving them a bunch of guns. And it's like, okay, whatever. If we have enough to... I don't really think it's good to just give free guns away because that's their problem. I mean, it's a different country. It's their problem. It's not my problem. We need guns. If you haven't noticed, this is a very political we need guns to defend ourselves against these crazy gun people with guns that shoot people because they're crazy, these mass shooters. Have you heard of this? If you live in America, you probably hear on Twitter and the media that there's these mass shootings that are usually conducted by white people, white men, and the guns are the things that are causing the problem. It's because we have access to guns, and that's why there's all these mass shootings. So the solution, obviously, is for innocent people to have access to plenty of guns, even more than they already have. Because you might have a gun in your house, but it might not be in the same room as you, and then you have to like run to the next room. And that every second counts when you're getting attacked. And if you're outside in public and there's a mass shooting happening, we need somebody to shoot that guy in the face as soon as they start going on a rampage to show them that this ain't gonna go down the way you planned, you motherfucker. Because it's just a fad. The only reason it's becoming so popular is because idiots don't realize that guns are cool to have on you at all times. So it's like, well, hey, all these dumb people don't like or afraid of guns, so I'm going to confirm their fear by shooting them with one. And they have no defense. They have nothing to defend themselves with because they're afraid of guns. Well, it's like being afraid of spiders. If somebody is killing you with a spider and you have no spiders and you're afraid of spiders, how are you going to defend yourself if you have no spiders to defend yourself against that spider with? I think that's a perfect analogy. Phobia does not solve the problem. Like being afraid of something doesn't solve the problem, man. Guns solve problems. What problem can't be solved with a gun? Let's say you have a landlord you don't like. You shoot him with a gun. He's no longer a problem. His body has to be taken care of. But then that's the last you'll ever hear from him. Let's say you're a landlord and you have tenants that you don't like. You shoot them with a gun. They're no longer a problem. They're not going to leave a bad review on Nextdoor, Yelp, or whatever the hell. Guns solve problems. Let's say you don't want to live anymore. Shoot yourself. I'm not saying I don't condone anything I'm talking about. I'm just saying, theoretically, let's say you wanted to do that. See, that people are just afraid of guns because they're afraid of themselves not knowing how to use them. They don't trust themselves because they're crazy people. They have these crazy thoughts in their head. It's like, well, you have this thing called self-control. All right, this is boring. This is not going anywhere, man. So anyway, we're going to go on one more topic, which actually has to do with reality and not, like actual everyday, my reality that I actually experience. Not like stuff that happens in the news. Like, oh, somebody shot 12 people and nobody shot him because they were afraid of guns. So they just thought, okay, if we just distance ourselves from guns, we won't get shot. Well, if somebody had a gun, it would have been a lot less people killed. There's people that have owned guns for their whole lives and nothing bad has ever happened because they're not idiots. They have self-control. They know how to not kill people or accidentally shoot themselves. It's not that hard. Just don't keep it aimed towards your face. Don't touch the trigger. And probably don't even keep it loaded if you're not using it. And always act as if it is loaded. Like, it's such a simple rule, but people are stupid around guns. They get complacent. They go, yeah, whatever. I grew up around guns. I've always had guns in my family. So there are stupid gun owners. and that they deserve to be shot. If you're a stupid gun owner, hey, can't complain. I ain't crying for you if you acted like the gun wasn't loaded when it was. You should always act like it is loaded, because it's like the Pascal's wager. What's the worst that could happen? Nothing. You don't get shot. If you act like it's always loaded, you won't do anything that'll get you in the position to be shot and killed, because you're acting as if it's loaded. You're like, well, don't point that at me. It's a gun, you fucking... Don't put your hand on the trigger. It's a gun. It could be loaded, you idiot. If you never do those things, if you always act as if it is loaded, you'll probably be more hesitant to put your stupid finger on the trigger and test it and point it at places where it shouldn't be pointed. But there are idiots out there that don't abide by that simple rule. So as long as you're not a freaking idiot and you don't let your kids play with them, then yeah, we should have more, like... Who cares how many of them we have? They're not that dangerous if you just know how to deal with them. I don't think you should have like 1,000 guns per household, because that would be kind of ridiculous. It'd be hard to keep track of them. Like, okay, got 1,000 of them. I don't know which ones are loaded or anything about. I don't know. It's hard to keep track. You probably have about 3 to 5 guns per bedroom. At the most. I don't want to be over excessive or under excessive, because the Constitution is the Constitution. You can have as many guns as you want. I'm just saying, on practical safety level, my recommendation, and this is financial advice, is to have no more than maybe 5 guns within reach. So, 5 guns per bedroom. If it's a living room, you got to hide them a little bit. You got to, put one on the wall for decoration and tell people that it's decommissioned and that it's completely not live and it's just for decoration. But you'll know that it's real and ready to go. It's not a prop. Tell people it's a prop. But you'll know that it's not a prop. That's the thing that's going to be killing you if you're not allowed in my house at any given. If I don't invite you in my house, that's the first one you're going to see pointed at your throat. But don't keep it like chambered and ready to go. Like, at least don't have chambered weapons without the safety on. I don't like that. That's sketchy, because I'm not a advanced gun owner. I don't like having a gun that just right there that could just fall over and just like maybe somehow trigger the weapon. It's somehow, I don't want to have an accidental discharge. So I don't really like to have a loaded gun unless I'm out of the house, unless I'm in public, because of course it's got to be loaded. Unless you have a magazine on one side of your belt and the other is just the empty gun, fine. Make sure there's nothing that... either way, you always treat it as if it's loaded, so it doesn't matter. And people have to get used to people having guns around them in public. People think that, just because somebody has a gun, they're going to shoot somebody. It's like, whoa, you have a gun on you? Well, hope we don't get into an argument. I don't want you to shoot me. It's like, I'm not going to fucking shoot you. It's for dangerous people. It's for crazy people. It's to kill people that are attacking me. It's not to shoot friends. It's not to shoot somebody that I'm hanging out with that I happen to get into an argument with. People, they actually think that. They actually go, don't shoot me. It's like, but I get it. I would be afraid of somebody too if they just had a gun on them and I didn't. And I didn't know them that well. And I don't know if they were like a hothead, because some people are fucking hotheads. Those people will be dealt with. If it's not a premeditated mass shooting, and it's just somebody who happens to just shoot somebody on the road, which happens all the time. Road rage, homicide happens all the time. That's another reason you need to have a gun. Because road rage homicides, you can't really predict it. You can't do anything to prevent it other than be a super defensive driver and just get out of people's way. You could be the best driver in the world and somebody could get extremely they could get pissed off enough to start shooting at you. It happens multiple times a year. How would you feel if somebody just started shooting at you and you had nothing to shoot them back with? I would get so angry at them, but also at myself for not having anything to shoot back. Like, of course, I'm going to be angry because if you're to use a gun, you have to be pretty angry at somebody, and if they're shooting at you, that's enough to rile me up to probably shoot back. So anyway, this is dumb. This is like such obvious second grade material here. They teach this stuff in school for like 10-year-olds. It's like, this is the most common sense thing, but for some reason, there's still people in their 70s who haven't cracked the code because for some reason, just the thought of Republicans just grinds their gears, and so they're afraid of guns. But like, yeah, I'm afraid of guns too when they're pointed at me. That's why I have my own. So at least I'll go out shooting. I won't go out defensively. And also, you can't just pull a gun at somebody for no reason. It could escalate a situation and cause you to get shot a lot quicker than if you didn't even pull a gun on them. They have to already be shooting at you. Or they just have to be in a position where you're legally allowed to defend yourself. They don't have to be shooting at you. They could simply be lunging at you with a knife. They could be shooting other people. They could be in your house at the wrong time. All I have to do is break into this window, and if it's nighttime, I have full clearance to blast their brains into a different subdivision, into a different zip code. I could take their brain, punt that thing into a different time zone. Perfectly legal. It'd be crazy. It would be on the big. Is that legal? That you put that guy's brain in a different time zone? Didn't have to go through customs, man. Like you punted his brain into Mexico. Hope he has a passport. Oh wait, he's dead. He doesn't need a passport. See, that's how serious I am when I talk about these things. I don't fiddle around with home defense. Because I have very, very high-end coffee equipment that make, like, I have a very fancy espresso machine, and that is worth more than the lives of anybody. I mean, anybody who breaks into my house, not anybody. I shouldn't have ended the sentence there. I'm not saying anybody in the world is worth less than my coffee machine. I'm saying, I for some reason, I decided to just be like, that's where I'm going to end the sentence. But no, I value people's lives more than my coffee machine. Unless they're trying to destroy or steal my coffee machine. Then, they're just a pile of meat that's going to be shot out of a cannon to Mexico, deported to Mexico. Whether they immigrated from there or not, they're going to be deported to Mexico if they try to fuck with my coffee maker. It's a Mr. Coffee. Okay. This was a fun episode. I didn't talk about anything that is actually going on in my life because this is not a vlog. This is an infotainment, professionally mixed and mastered podcast where I use plugins that cost money. I don't steal plugins. This is going through a de-esser and multiple compressors and a limiter to get to your ears. All right, that was a dumb way to end this podcast. Anyway, it was episode 89 of the Anti-Defamation Show. Peace, love, in the Middle West.